industry, safety. Just a few quick housekeeping notes. In the event of an emergency, please follow instructions from the staff and exit through the doors clearly marked with the exit sign and blinking right now. Kindly switch off or silence your mobile devices. Please note that this session is streamed and recorded. During the Q&A, simply raise your hand and a microphone will be brought to you. And for those active on social media, the official event hashtag is #EPCA59. We invite you to join the conversation. Finally, we would like to remind everyone of our EPCA do's and don'ts. As you're all aware, we must refrain from discussing any sensitive market information. Compliance with competition law is not just expected, it's one of EPCA's core values. And now, without further ado, let's begin.
Good morning all. Welcome to the North Sea Port speaker slot. My name is Wouter, Commercial Manager at North Sea Port. And before we go to an interesting panel to hear about the insights of SGS, Terra, VNCY and Essentia, I will give an introduction about North Sea Port. North Sea Port is a cross-border port located in Vlissingen, Terneuzen and Ghent. We are a quite young port because we only merged in 2018 between the ports of Vlissingen and Terneuzen and the port of Ghent. We were not the first who did a cross-border merger. That was Malmö and Copenhagen in 2001. If you look to our port area, we are in the top 10 of the Hamburg-La Haven range. If you look to the goods traffic, we are number 6. In Europe, the number 9. But we are third in added value with 12.7 billion euros added value. We are comparable to the Schiphol cluster in Amsterdam, for example. With more than 100,000 jobs in our port area and more than 550 companies being active in our port area. Traditionally, we as North Sea Port are a bulk port, both liquid and both dry bulk, mainly because there's a lot of industry in our port areas. Also, we look into a smaller part, containers, break bulk and ro-ro. But it's more in a niche market or supporting the other segments like the industries we have on plastics, on fertilizers, etc. We have excellent maritime access, up to 70 meters draft in Vlissingen. Behind the lock in Terneuzen, along the channel, there is a draft of 12.5 meters. Our total port area is more than 9,000 hectares wide, with more than 58 kilometers of quay. On daily basis, we maintain. So it's impressive numbers of our total port area. From Vlissingen upwards to Ghent, it's around 60 kilometers long. Last year, in October, we opened, or the kings of Belgium and Netherlands opened the new lock in Terneuzen, which is now operational to accommodate post-Panamax vessels and giving us the possibility to deepen the port area to a draft of 16 meters in future. Beside the chemical industry, which is very important for us, we have other segments which are in our port area very important, like steel, automotive, food and feed, building materials, energy and value-added logistics. And there's a lot of cooperation and synergies within the sectors. I will tell more about that later. If you look to the chemical industry and the renewable industry in our port area, we see that more than 50% of the trade in our port area is chemical related, with more than 60 companies active in the chemical industry. A lot of production facilities in our area. You see some logos of some companies which are having production facilities in our port, and more than 4.5 million cubes tank storage, which is quite large numbers. If you look to the petrochemical industry and the renewable industry, we talk about production of liquids, plastics, gases, lubrication oils, in the 4 sectors, because we see a lot of synergies between the production of the chemical industry and other sectors like automotive, agriculture. And if you look to our total port area from Vlissingen up to Ghent, we see a cluster in Vlissingen for the refinery business. Big refinery is located in Vlissingen, but also some tank storage available there. If you look to Terneuzen, there's a cluster of production of plastics with Dow Chemicals, of course, as company which is present, and where some other value-added services are related to. In Ghent, we see production from lubrication oils, tank storage, value-added logistics, pre-treatment. A lot of expertises come together in our port area, so we are quite complementary to each other if you look to the different ports within our port area. Recently, there is a study of the University of Brussels and the Erasmus University. We made an analysis of the ARA region, Antwerp, Rotterdam, Rhine-Ruhr area, and North Seaport is in the middle of it. So it really makes sense to facilitate and attract new investments in that area. There are pipelines for ethylene, crude oil, and industrial gases between our port and the surrounding ports, with more than 40% of the petrochemical production in the EU, in Europe, is within this triangle. So it really makes sense to develop this region. Where do we look from North Seaport towards? What is our focus? We see, of course, difficult market circumstances at the moment in all sectors. It's not only in the petrochemical industry. We have challenges like electricity, nitrogen, geopolitics on national level, but also on European policy level. But we have 2 main focus areas, and one is facilitate and attract and develop energy projects. And on the other side, we want to stimulate developments in circularity. If you look to the energy part, hydrogen will be and is currently already an important development, with some offshore wind farms for the Dutch coast, which come on land in Vlissingen and probably also in Terneuzen. It's an attractive location for the production of hydrogen, green hydrogen in future. So a lot of projects are now being developed to produce hydrogen locally, but we're also in cooperation with the terminals looking to import hydrogen carriers like ammonia. So there are several projects ongoing. We try to develop, and that we do together with GasUnie and Fluxys, develop a hydrogen backbone on the Dutch side with GasUnie and on the Belgium side with Fluxys, to reach the hinterland for that hydrogen which is produced in our region or being imported, to finally fit in the European hydrogen backbone plan. If you look to carbon storage, capture and storage, CO2. We have a large number of CO2 available being produced in our port area, which gives a huge potential for new projects, both on the CCU projects, but also on CCS. For example, Yara and Sluiskil is the first one who will start next year with shipping their CO2 to Northern Lights. But we have more companies and projects in a port area to support the transition for CO2. Important in that development is the availability of a CO2 backbone. On the Dutch side, I know that they are looking to combine the hydrogen backbone with the CO2 backbone, together with both Gasunie, but also with Fluxys to develop on the Belgium side, and to connect also with the CO2 to the hinterland. For us as North Seaport, it's important if we look to the coming 10, 15 years to have a good energy mix. And we see that also LNG, bio-LNG will be part of it. So we try to facilitate some projects to import LNG in the future, but also looking to methanol, importing of ammonia, production of SAF, handling of HVO. Hydrogen, we discussed biodiesel, very important also, and other hydrogen carriers or other products. If you look to circularity, there are some examples where we currently are busy with, or companies are busy with. For example, Alta Innovation, they will be located in Terneuzen, in the plastic cluster surrounding of Dow. It's a scale-up for production of cyclic carbonates. They use CO2 as a feedstock, adding propylene oxide and ethylene oxide to produce a new green chemical which can be used in the battery market for the automotive. So that's also a direct synergy with the automotive market. On the other side, we have a project in Ghent from Freeport Ecosystems for pyrolysis of plastics, an 80 KT chemical plant phasing up to 160 kiloton in future. They try to develop the project at this point. We all know the situation that chemical recycling is not very easy at the moment. We see a lot of projects being stopped at the moment. But what we see here is that there is a synergy also in cooperation with Renewi from providing the feedstock and do the pre-treatment of the feedstock. And that kind of collaborations is very important. We don't see it very often that the chemical industry will co-op with the waste supplier. So we see some good developments, and I think that these two projects are good examples of circularity in our port area. Another example is our collaboration within Smart Delta Resources. It's a cross-border collaboration between companies on the Dutch side, also with the Belgium side, but not only in the petrochemical cluster. It's in automotive, it's in the steel industry. So there are a lot of companies looking towards projects to look where there are synergies to exchange flow of goods, production gases which just come out of the production plants. And one of the projects where they are focusing on at this point is the circular carbon project. There we are looking within a port area to facilitate around 300,000 tons a year hub for both pyrolysis but also gasification, in cooperation also with the waste treatment side, and to support circular feedstock for the chemical and steel industry. So one example of a case which is being developed by our collaboration in Smart Delta Resources. So there are a lot of plans, innovations and developments going on at this point. But we can't do that alone, of course. And we are here at the EPCA together with companies from our port area. 6 companies, where 4 of them I will introduce in a minute. The other 2, SGS and Terra, will be in the panel later on. But we see that, due to the investments which are going on in the energy, in the circularity, that North Sea Port is ready to push boundaries. And we are quite optimistic that all the investments which are now going on in a port area, that it will contribute to support the chemical industry in the coming years to make that transition towards more circularity and a more energy positive situation. Gadot is a global company, mainly involved in the lubrications and additives market, do the sales and distribution of those chemicals, located in Ghent, blending and toll manufacturing, chemical logistics and storage, with, like I said, a global footprint. They are joining us in our meeting room, the Bellevue. Also together with GTS, liquid bulk company, quite young company, 2010, more than 2 million cube storage by the end of 27, investing at the moment in extra capacity, but also in extra jetty. So they are located in Ghent in the Kluisendok. Merwilde, integrated logistics, a lot of own assets, but also tank cleaning, storage. Also located alongside the channel Gent-Neuzen, independent family business, one of the companies supporting the logistics part of the chemical industry. Sea-Tank Terminal, private Belgian group of companies, active in the port for a very long time, since 1925, focusing especially also on sustainable fuels, HVO, FAME, UCOs, animal fats, multimodal terminal with 360,000 cube tank capacity. That will be the part. That was the part of the introduction of North Sea Port and the companies who are supporting us or during the EPCA. It's now time to go over to the panel, and I would like to invite SGS, Terra, VNCI, Essentia, so Armin, Kapil, Manon, Tine, come along. So, welcome on stage. Let us start first with a short introduction of the organizations where you work for. Can I start with you, Armin?
Sure. So, good morning, everybody. SGS, the global leader for the testing, inspection, and certification industry. Close to 100,000 people. Basically, everywhere there's business, we are located. 2,600 offices and state-of-the-art laboratories. Every business, and of course here we look at the energy and the chemical commodities market. We are the global recognized benchmark for basically everything that stands for the testing and the quality and integrity. And we combine the certification, the testing, and the inspections in the whole energy transition, and we provide that knowledge to our customers so that they can have a prosperous future. Yeah, also innovative. Latest innovation is a drone and CO2-free flight of samples across the port. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kapil?
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for giving the stage over and all the folks who've decided to stop by for the talks. That's really encouraging. Terra is a startup company that was formed in 2020, early February 2020, just before the COVID lockdown started. But essentially the plan of Terra is to provide sustainable solutions to the chemical industry and the fuels industry in particular. So alcohols are our thing, and alcohols are not new for the chemicals industry. This is a technology that was developed in the 1938, and it's still being used today. What we're trying to do and provide a solution to the industry is access to the same molecules that have been made since 1938, but with a carbon footprint of at least 25% lower. So that's sort of our giving back to the society. And an alternative as well is we're trying to do sustainable aviation fuel, which is an extension of our alcohol business. So I'm really happy to be here, and should there be any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Manon?
Good morning. My name is Manon Bloemer. I'm from the VNCI, the Dutch Chemical Industry Association. We are dedicated to a strong and innovative chemical industry in the Netherlands, but as we all know here in EPCA, that's not an easy task nowadays, so we will talk a little bit about that in this session. And related to North Sea ports, Zeeland is for us, of course, a very important cluster.
Thank you very much. Tine?
Good morning. I'm Tine Katoor from Essentia. Essentia is the Belgian sector federation for the chemical industry, life sciences and plastics. We represent, of course, the interests of our members, and currently competitiveness is very high on the agenda, but we'll talk about that also a bit later.
Thank you very much. Armin, I start with you. You also already mentioned the Simplify project, and there's a lot of congestion in some ports. Luckily, in North Sea ports, we don't have congestion at this point, but and there's a lot of barriers for transportation nowadays in the port area. Can you tell us something more about the Simplify project?
Happy to. Thank you for asking. Simplify, combination, of course, of samples and fly. It started a few years ago where we had the idea of how to reduce emissions, how to speed up our turnaround times, and to serve our customers better. And we thought about drones. Sort of a hype at that time, but we started the development. It became a real big thing, and we developed a drone that can carry about 6 liters of sample, 12 bottles, and not only reducing the CO2 emissions, but also reducing port times. And by reducing port times, you reduce costs, you reduce delays, but also another reduction of emissions. As soon as ships are sailing again, we are back on track, as we say. So it's the whole chain from taking the sample, which is a necessity, until the ship leaving berth, where we have faster service, less emissions, and overall a better performance for the whole port, because they can handle more ships in the same time.
Does that mean, because nowadays you are located almost in every port, does it mean that with this project in future you don't have to be in every port?
I don't know if we can't be in every port, but definitely we can concentrate more. If we take Antwerp, and I know it's not your area, but if we take Antwerp as an example, you always have the difference between left bank and right bank. You have laboratories situated on one end where you need the sample from the other end. By using a drone, we can fly them easily, fast, from one side to another, without traffic jams, without emissions. So yes, in that respect, it helps us to concentrate on less entities. If you can really skip whole ports as an area, I'm not sure about that yet, but maybe the future will tell us.
Thank you very much. Kapil, question for you, because if you read the paper, and we all do, we see all the closings of production locations, loss of jobs. It's challenging times for the industry. Not an easy moment to scale up with innovation, with new products. How do you see Terra Mater will be in 5 years' time?
Thank you for the question. It's rather turbulent times, as the title suggests. But I'm gonna take a step back and try to draw an analogy with a different company, different industrial sector. So, how many in the room have used a Nokia phone in the past? There you go. See, there's a lot of folks. And beautiful phones. Battery lasted a week or two if you don't use it so much. Fantastic technology. But what they did was they got complacent. They didn't really innovate and then didn't really address the requirements of the market, so to speak. Yeah. I think we are at the same point when it comes to chemical industry. I'm not saying we gotten complacent, but there is definitely room to improve things better. The Industrial Revolution started here, well, Great Britain, but in Europe mostly. And what's happened is over the past many years, all the assets that have been installed, those have been installed for 20, 30 years of operations. And most recent crackers that are installed in Asia are relatively younger, more efficient and more robust, more agile. I think what we need to do is adapt to those requirements and sort of reconsider rebuilding the Industrial Revolution, so to speak, and try to bring that back here. That's one. And a lot of times, the misconception is that we'll give the market what they want. But you really have to ask the customer what they really want and try to deliver the products what they really want. So today's customer will ask you, is the product sustainable? Does it have a lower carbon footprint? Those are things that are not necessarily addressed by the industry in particular. So if we start addressing those points bit by bit and give them sustainable, nimble solutions, we can still capture a significant market. So I think if we start to not get complacent, we should be able to get through. So it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but I hope it makes the case in point.
Thank you very much. Manon, how do you see the future of the chemical industry in the Netherlands? And what can industry offer, and where do you need help?
Those are actually 3 questions. Well, it's an interesting perspective when we talk about complacency. Maybe you can put up the slide of the VNCI. Yes, thank you. At current moment, we are really suffering. We made a new strategy last year. Our strategy was running out 2024, so we made a strategy for 25 to 29. And we asked our board, where do we want to be in 29? And the answer was, if we're still there in 29. So that was quite heavy to start the whole strategic discussion. But that's really the situation in the Netherlands now. It's difficult with high cost of doing business, mainly high energy prices, high network prices, very high even compared to Belgium. And you are already complaining that it's high. High cost of administration, high cost of regulation. And still, there's no use for us to simply complain and to simply dive into if we're still there in 29. We want to be there in 29 because we have a lot of things to offer. And that's your second question, yeah? What do you have to offer? There's a clear understanding now in different ministries in the Netherlands that we don't want to be fully dependent when it comes to building blocks for daily life materials on other countries far away. And we're getting into a dangerous dependency when we lose our basis, when we lose the chemical industry, when we lose the base industry, the mother of all industries. So we are important for that strategic independence. we are also important if we are serious about moving to a circular economy. If you want to use your waste into raw material again, you need to have your own factories, you need to have your own production. And I'm not even talking about all the jobs and the economic value that the industry delivers. So we said we want to do everything that's in our possibilities, everything possible to make sure that we survive this very difficult sort of energy winter time, because it's mainly the cost of energy that makes it difficult. And we want our members to become competitive again, and then while they're getting a bit more money for their business, trying to make that change into the low carbon and sustainable products that we can make. And very important for that, what we need is industrial policy, and particularly in the Netherlands, we need a government that stays a bit longer than 1 year. And from Europe, we need good support when it comes to building market demand for those low carbon and sustainable products, because our industry can make those products. The consumer maybe says, I want those products, but currently they don't want to pay for it. So if we make the sustainable products the basis, the normal choice, then simply by moving up the price a little bit, because on the consumer side it won't be much, we can make the sustainable choice, the low carbon choice, the normal choice. And then our companies, our members can invest in decarbonization and invest in low carbon products that are no longer made from fossil raw materials, but from for example, waste. And then we can build this real circular economy in Europe. And there's a good initiative in Europe to work on demand creation with a little bit of made in Europe in it. So those are the little points of light, but they won't be there in 1-2 years. It will take 5 years plus maybe. But those are the points of light for the chemical industry in the Netherlands and in Europe, if we can make that demand creation initiative work. For now, I think enough.
Thank you very much. Tine Manon already mentioned policy making. The Antwerp Declaration, co-initiated by Essentia, led to the Clean Industrial Deal and the Chemical Industry Plan. Do we see enough concrete actions?
That's a good question. Indeed, a year ago with the Antwerp Declaration, a lot of reports have been made in the meantime on competitiveness. For sure, it put competitiveness high on the political agenda, but unfortunately, the real action is not yet there. So there's a lot of plans and actions written down. And also, Mr. Draghi mentioned it last week, Europe is in a worse situation than a year ago, and we really need concrete actions. And Manon already rightfully pointed out, the energy prices are killing us, so it's really important that these energy prices are going down one way or another, that authorities help energy-intensive industries like the chemical industry to build a competitive industry, because if we do not have the money to invest in the necessary transition, this transition will be very difficult to achieve. So first thing is this competitive issue, but the second thing is already also mentioned, is the regulatory burden that comes with new investments, with new technology. And if we want to make a transition happening, we are with some uncertainty on the technology, how it will make out, and Europe is now every legislation is very strict and binding, but didn't foresee the future and future developments. So legislation should be future-proof as well. And if we see how an investment and a new installation would take grounds in Belgium, for example, we have difficulties with obtaining permits, even if you build in dedicated ports where industrial land is foreseen for industrial activity, and we certainly look to the ports also like North Sea port, but also Antwerp. It's difficult to obtain these permits, so even if companies want to invest in the transition, They should be helped. There should be more carrots, not sticks. They should be helped to make that transition and to make that investment in Europe, in Flanders. But it's not only Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, it's the whole of Europe. And especially here, we are with partners together that form a cluster, and a very important cluster, you mentioned it, with Flanders, the southern Netherlands, the chemical parks in Germany. This important cluster, this infrastructure that is there, this cross-border cooperation is the heart of Europe, and we really should reinforce it. And so we're really glad that in this chemical industry action plan, these clusters are now recognized, that they are valorized, that they are acknowledged, that these scales can lever up new technologies, because we will need to work together to have these circular feedstocks, to go to carbon capture, utilization and storage. You cannot do it one company by its own, one port by its own, one country by its own. We really need to work together. So we're really looking forward to actions at European level, but we also should work and continue to work together at the regional and company level. So the clustering of the chemical sector across these boundaries and the working of the ports together and this infrastructure is also really important. And investments there to make that transition happening is a necessity.
Something to add, Manon?
Yeah, maybe something to add, because I fully agree with you. We both talk about high energy prices, and Europe has always had higher energy prices than the surrounding players in the world. But our extra added value, and that's why we shouldn't lose the basis, is that we have a huge interconnected industry, cross-border, within clusters, and that was our asset why we could compete always on a world market with higher energy prices. But the current difference in energy price is so much and so high that the investment climate becomes unattractive. But we can still be a very strong competitive force in the world with our huge interconnectedness, and that is something that we should cherish. But if you lose the basis, if you lose the crackers, for example, you lose the next stage, and you lose also the surrounding service companies. So we cannot afford to cut up in pieces the connectedness in the industry, because we then lose part of our competitiveness.
Thank you very much. Armin, back to you. I learned that there are some projects within SGS about sustainability. One of them is the Impact Now project. Can you elaborate some more about that?
Yes, happy to. Impact Now is SGS's, well, I wouldn't call it a project. It's our help to the industry to help them reach their sustainability ESG goals. It's based on our people, on our knowledge, around 4 pillars. The 4 pillars are climate, circularity, nature, and ESG. And all the knowledge that we have got within our company that's over 100 years old comes together in that new help to the industry. So we can help them from, as you mentioned in your presentation, the take-in of the plastics to make pyrolysis oil. That plastic comes from waste, but it's not suitable immediately to use in a cracker. We can help them also with research to make suitable entrances in the market. Or if you look at the backside, the pyrolysis oil itself, it may contain PFAS. We don't want PFAS anymore in the environment. So we've been recognized for 20 years as being one of the leaders in PFAS. So we can help the producers to set their goals, to make sure and certify that their product is PFAS free. And that goes beyond the traditional certification or inspection work. It helps and it cooperates with the industry to set mutual goals. So it's not just a project, it's a goal. It's working together with the industry to together help and work out the sustainability goals and make sure that we are more circular and CO2 neutral.
Part of your DNA.
Part of our DNA, yes, helping our DNA with the industry. And I fully comply with what you've said. We need that industry and we need to keep it here.
Thank you. Kapil, we also already discussed the high energy costs, CO2 costs, especially in Europe. How do you see it? Because you have your technology, you want to upscale, that are quite some ambitions on the one side. But how do you see that development while other parties are failing? Can you say something more about how you see it from a Terra perspective?
Yeah, I think I'll try to insist on the simple fact that we need to keep innovating. Again, learning from the lessons of history, so to speak. If you look at an ammonia plant today, this is still based on technology that was developed several years ago. Till date, there is no upscaled version that's far more efficient to make ammonia. This was developed by Haber-Bosch back in the day, still being used today. Those processes are extremely energy and process intensive. I think the most important thing we need to do is come up with innovative solutions that are more efficient. And that's one of the reasons why I brought up the Nokia phones in the past. When Nokia shut down, because it's not because it was a bad phone, but because they didn't adapt to the markets. So I think that's an important lesson we need to learn and follow the Apple route, which is innovate and capture the market. So even if the product, again, if you compare an Apple phone, it's almost $1,500 a piece versus a Nokia, which was $25, $30 a piece. People are willing to pay good money if the technology is there, if it provides better solutions over an old technology. So I think we need to just make a strong case in point that people have better opportunities with better products, far more efficient processes available, and as long as we can deliver those, we should be able to survive through quite nicely.
Thank you very much. Manon, where do you see the opportunities on short term, or maybe also for the long term, especially related to the North Sea port area?
The Netherlands has originally been very active in circular economy. Yes, so there are many opportunities in making chemicals from different raw materials, biomass or CO2 or waste. That is a route that is still very small, but it needs to grow. And you see that the North Sea port area has the huge opportunity because you have the existing companies and you have room for new companies. And where you see the real development is when the existing companies and new startups start working together. So I would say North Sea port can facilitate that. Many people tell me, well, you should get rid of all that old industry and then there's room for new industry. No, I think the current crackers, for example, can be the huge recycling machines when they are fed with pyrolysis oil, for example. That's one of the routes where sealand could be large. And then with the co-working with the waste companies, where you said it's very special, I think that is the future. Waste is the new raw material, and if you're in a circular economy, the base chemicals, the crackers, are the neighbors of the waste company. Yeah? The circle is round, the circle is closed, but we are just next to each other. So if you can facilitate that, and I also think it's a good task of a port authority to help existing business make that transition and help new business get a foot on the ground. So help them with easier permitting, help them with understanding the regulations, help them with when you also believe that regulations are working against new innovations instead of helping them. Be a partner in that process of, apart from having enough money, also having all the permits and having all the possibilities and all the different the hekjes waar je over moet. I don't know, all the different hordes that you have to take to get to this new transformed chemical industry.
Thank you. Tina, we discussed already the geopolitical situation, strategic autonomy. How can Europe safeguard its position in terms of the chemical industry?
That's indeed a difficult question. So we have some options. So I think where the Europe could work better. One of the things is really, we already discussed a bit, support more the supply chains, because it's really an added value that we have an integrated system, ecosystem of the chemical industry together that stimulates innovation, that can provide scale for the new technologies. So this should be stimulated more. Another point is also to guarantee a level playing field. What we often forget, Manon talked about market pool demand. Customers buy often cheapest product, but we must make sure that products that are important into Europe, especially consumer products, abide by the same rules. We have the most stringent rules on safety of products for consumer health and protection and environment. But we see in the figures that what is imported doesn't comply, or a large portion doesn't comply. So that doesn't protect the consumer's health and the environment, and we will have to recycle those products. And on the other hand, it makes that there's no market for the products produced in Europe. So really this level playing field should be guaranteed at the borders with the imports. And we should also look at our strengths in Europe is we have a single market created, but that should be expanded. We have a single market for products, but circular economy demands also a single market for waste, for example. We really need to be more open in our boundaries within Europe to get to the scales of recycled material and where that to be used. And the last point I want to make is about working together. Alliances between companies across sectors are building, because we need to expand our view and look to other raw material sources, because we lack these raw materials. So the carbon capture utilization, it's about working together. It's about innovation and scale up. Essentia has built an incubator, a Bluechem in Antwerp. It's already full. We will build a new one, Bluechem Excel, to help the spin-offs scale up their innovations to an industrial scale. And we need that in this ecosystem of all these interconnected companies across the borders. And it's really important to work together and to cooperate. That's our force.
Thank you. Maybe a last small question, because we are quite running out of time for you both, Tine and Manon. We have discussed the cross-border perspective from a port area vision. Is there any collaboration between, on one side, the VNC, and the other side, Essentia, cross-border?
It'd be strange if the answer would be no, huh?
Indeed, I can only confirm we work together. Yes, of course.
And formally, we work together within CEFIC. And CEFIC, of course, has had a huge impact with the Antwerp Declaration and the Chemical Industry Action Plan. And I think Belgium and Netherlands have some particular issues to manage, which we do quite well. And particularly Flanders and Netherlands, I would say.
Yeah. And I think also with the authorities, we have this trilateral chemical strategy. So it's the Flanders, Netherlands with North Rhine-Westphalia where we work together. So there also the governments, the Netherlands and Flanders have regular meetings together. So yeah, we align our messages and work together. It's not a competition.
Super. Thank you very much. We're running out of time, so I would like to thank the panel for the discussion and your presence, and also the audience for being here. Please, if you have any other questions for one of the companies which are joining us, or for North Seaport itself, we have the meeting room Bellevue, where you can pass by and have a chat later. Thank you very much.